Okay, we're live again. I'm just throwing this one out there for fun. I'm working on some bees. I got some things coming up. Figured I'd get on here and share that. So you may not see this live. You may be watching as a recording because I didn't give an announcement that I was going live. But if you subscribe and you get the alerts that I'm going live, maybe you are here. Thanks if you are joining me, and thanks if you're joining me later. I'm going to go through some of the process, as I always do in these videos, more or less just sharing what I do so you can better understand how these little things come to life. First, I'm going to start with showing a little bit about the beginning of the process. And I'm still playing around with the YouTube live thing, how to watch comments and all that. I have no clue if I'm going to see comments. So if you post and I don't reply, it's because I can't see them. Not because I'm ignoring you, I promise. I'm going to try to look over every once in a while and see if anything's coming across. So, quick rundown on the beginning steps of making one of these little guys. I melt beeswax and put them on these panels I get from Jerry's Artorama. It's just a cradled panel, and I've got two different thickness. I've started doing these thicker ones. I like these blocks. They're a little heavier duty. For just sitting, you don't have to worry about hanging them. That's the problem with these guys. They're small and they'll be easy to hang, but I haven't figured out an attachment other than like a sawtooth hanger that would work. Still trying to figure that out. But they still would sit on the shelf. They sit fine. They're pretty cool. But yeah, I think I'm going to start doing these blocks. They cost a little bit more, but I think it'd be worth it. I print out my bee image just on my home copier on some cheap paper, black and white. And after I put the beeswax down on the panel, I smooth it out with either a scraper like this or a scraper like this. On these small panels, this works pretty well. Or I just use a razor blade, one of these triangular blades that you get in a utility knife. They work well. The only thing with these is the edges are pointy, and so when you're pulling the wax across, you'll sometimes dig in and get some lines. It's not a bad thing. I'd rather get it pretty smooth. Then I put the image down on top of the beeswax and basically use that as a template. And I sit here and I cut with my X-Acto knife, cutting these outlines. And you might be able to tell there we go, that's better. You may be able to tell I've cut into this one already, the shapes with that focus. So now, these are all individual pieces. They look like this. They're just still in place. So I'll pull off one of these pieces and grab magazines that have the colors I want. We'll start with the little leg of the bee. And you can tell I use a piece of paper as much as I can to get a lot out of it. Try not to waste too much. So the image goes upside down. And the reason it goes upside down is because I want this black to go face down on the beeswax for it to transfer. And I'm not going to do this whole thing, but I want to do a few of the steps here. We'll do this like a cooking show. I've got a couple over here that are already cut and waiting to be sanded and sprayed with water. You may have watched my videos of this before, but new paintings. I've got I think I got 3 bees that are ready to be sanded. So we'll do 3 of them real quick. Yeah, all these pieces just come off now and I use them as a template. You know, in a small piece like this these bees probably take about an hour or so to do. When I get into my larger paintings, I'll spend, sometimes weeks on a painting. Same process, just more little cuts. So pull it off, replace it with the magazine paper. And I do that. I think this bee part's here. I wanted to say I counted this one day and it's like 25 or 30 little pieces. The back of this paper's white, so you can't really tell there's a difference. Oh well. All right, I'm gonna take a quick look here and make sure nobody's on here commenting. I don't see any comments, so hopefully I'm not missing nothing. I may not have anybody watching actually. I think I show one viewer, and it may be me. So if you're watching and hear me, it's probably a recording. It's not live. At least you had the opportunity. So I'll give you a quick update on what I got going on right now. These bees that I'm doing now, these may make it to Copper Moon Gallery in New Albany, Indiana, which is just outside of Louisville. I'm probably going to deliver these on Wednesday next week, Wednesday or Thursday. My plan's Wednesday. Just make a quick day trip. I need to go up there and get some artwork that's been there for a minute and take some of these smaller paintings. So that's where some of these will be going. I won't have a whole bunch, but I'll have a few. So if you're interested, you better get there quick. I'll eventually try to do these on my website and ship them out if somebody's not local that wants some. I got to get through the next few weeks, get some of the Copper Moon, so they'll have them available for their customers. Then I have a show this weekend here in Nashville at Blue Fig Gallery at the arcade. It'll be during the art crawl from 6 to 9. If you want, and you're watching this, you're probably following me pretty close. If you're local and you want to come and get an early peek, we're going to do a preview party from 5 to 6. And my plan is to bring a few bottles of mead. I went and met my beekeeper today that I get my beeswax from, one of them. And I bought some mead. He's getting ready to open up a meadery in Nashville, in East Nashville, hopefully within a couple months. But he's bottling mead, and so I went over there this morning and picked up a few bottles. So we'll do a little mead tasting. So if you've never had mead, you're in Nashville, you will see my artwork and my friends that are showing with me. Come by Blue Fig Gallery at the arcade from 5 to 6. Because I'm not going to have a whole lot of mead, but I will have enough so everybody can get a taste of it. If you've never had it, it's yummy. It's in between a beer and a wine. I think it's hard to explain. It's not as sweet as a wine. Well, the mead that my guy makes isn't. He's got 4 different flavors right now, and I've had 2 of them. I like a dry wine, and this mead is right up my alley. A little dry, just a little sweetness to it, but they make it from their own honey. Some of it. I think there's, like right now, this way the season runs, he didn't have any honey left from their hive, so he's been buying honey from somebody else to make these different flavors. He's got a pineapple, a cider one they call Sizer. That's what I tried this morning, man. It's delicious. So that's Saturday night. Please join us. And then in May, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, I'm going to be at the Harding Academy show, and I'll have some more of these bees. And between now and then, I hope to have several. We'll see. But I'll also be displaying some of my newer paintings. It's always a great show. Not only could you come and just see my artwork, you can come and see like 70 other artists in one space. It's a great show. Just artists after artists hanging out, talking about what they do, showing their newest works. And it's a fundraiser for the Harding Academy. And I guess technically it's a fundraiser for artists, right? We get to sell our artwork and help raise money. Everybody wins. Notice I'm getting a lot of new subscribers, and I appreciate you guys clicking the subscribe button. And I plan to just hopefully put better and better content on here for you to watch. If you want to learn how to do this process, we're going to have, videos like this where I'm working. If you want to follow along, you'll be able to do so. Just let me know if I get enough people saying that they want to try this. I've thought about offering to mail out kits. Even if I just mailed you a block with the wax already on it, so you don't have to invest in a crock pot to melt wax, worry about getting beeswax, and buying a bunch of blocks. I buy these, usually buy a big box of them. But I could mail out some of the basics to do this. The heat gun would be kind of on you. And then, I don't know, magazines, of course, you would probably want to do your own. But you can see how I choose colors by watching me do it and doing it along with me. And then, yeah, we could just play around with that. And I wouldn't be able to be watching you. I know there's ways that we could do that. There's different sites other than YouTube where you can have a one-on-one feedback. I think powhow.com offers classes like that, but you have to pay for it, both the instructor and the student. So I don't know if it'd be worth doing or not, but just something to think about. Otherwise, we could do something like this where I did a video of the process. You tried it, worked along with me. Then if you had questions, you could just send me messages by email or text or however. And see if it's something you want to pursue, or maybe it's not. Yeah, it's not a quick learn. I mean, I didn't pick this up and start doing it this well right away. It took me years to figure a few things out. Some of it I can teach and save you some time, and some of it you got to learn on your own. It's like anything. The more you do it, the more you understand why you're doing it a certain way. And I like learning by doing and not knowing all the details. Sometimes it's good to kind of wing it. Accidents happen, and then accidents turn into new ideas. As Bob Ross would say, happy accidents, happy trees. There's no mistakes. Although I've had some disasters. That's all right. Without the disasters, I probably wouldn't have gotten to the point I'm at. So I'll take it. As you can see, these little pieces are tiny on these bees. They're hard to hold while you cut them too when they're this small. Especially these narrow pieces that you cut. Okay. Alright, so you've seen me cut a few pieces. I'm gonna cut one more, just that'll be all the black on this bee. You can see that's what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 12 little pieces where I use black. And then the rest will be, you know, the orangish yellow stripes on the back of the bee. And then the wings will be a pattern or a color that I choose. And it's hard to find patterns that have enough details and things, variety of colors in them that small. So I'm constantly looking. The best thing I've found are like rugs or any kind of cloth material in Veranda or Architectural Digest. Those tend to have the best options for bee wings. If you get too solid of a color, it's just not as interesting. Maybe it'll tell. There was a piece of jewelry. This is what I got the wings there from. It had some jewels in it, some red and some greens. It was pretty cool. This is from bouquets of flowers that were on a table in one of the Veranda magazines, I think. So it had a variety of colors and a top pattern that worked. This was from a rug. It's got some reds and teal colors in it. I really like that one. So, yeah, I'm constantly, when I'm going through magazines, I'm looking for things. Like these bushes may work. They've got some red blooms on them and some green. That might work nice. Patterns like this might be okay, but it's awful. There's a lot of white there. I'm worried it may just get lost. If you go too light, it just doesn't have the same appeal. And I'm afraid the stripes on this would be nice, but it's so dark. I don't want to go that dark. That red's pretty cool. This is cool, but the pattern's too big. So I'd get a lot of red or a lot of blue and just a little bit of others. And I haven't done it yet. Maybe I'll do it on this one. I haven't played with just like a black and white. That's got a cool pattern. But I'm afraid it would really come across too light. Tree branches might be better. It's a little darker. So yeah, every time I do one of these bees, I try to do something a little different. And I've learned some things work better than others. So I'm thinking about, yeah, that bluish color may be cool with the architectural elements in it, the windows and the lights. So I'm just wondering if it doesn't have a lot of contrast. A little bit there, but this may be too washy looking. Oh no! That's where I get frustrated. It's funny when I find something I really like that bouquet would probably be cool, maybe. It seems like I can find one page that looks really cool and then I don't see it again. So I like it when I get multiples of the same magazine. If I find something I like, I can go through and get all the pages that are the same. I do that with Veranda a lot. Alright, so this bee is still going to be in the works. I got to cut some on it. I'm going to set it aside and go over here to where this one's ready to sand. Set some of this stuff off to the side. There's a heart. Same process with the heart. If you're starting out, you may want to start with something like this. Those shapes are much easier to cut than the legs and the antennas on the bee. These are pretty much just hexagon shapes. So keep that in mind if you want to give this a shot. I'm going to take a quick look, see if anybody's on here. Oh, I got 3 watching. Hey, if this is correct, 4 now. Thanks for coming by and watching. If you get a chance, come back and start from the beginning. You'll see some of the process where I went from my pattern to cutting out the individual pieces. And when I'm getting ready to sand this guy so you can see the colors come through. So I use 220 grit sandpaper. I'll take a block, and the magazine paper that I cut, the colors are face down on beeswax. I'm going to block it in just to make sure that it's good flat surface. I don't have any overlapping paper, so when I sand it, I don't pull that magazine paper off. It needs to stay in place. So I'm going to lightly sand it. That's going to take the gloss off the magazine paper so that it will absorb water when I spray it. Don't have to sand it too hard. Like I said, it's more or less just to take the gloss off. And then before I do anything else, now that I've got it all sanded, I'm going to take and wet a piece of cotton cloth, usually an old t-shirt I've cut up. And I just wipe the dust off so it doesn't get all over my studio before I go to the next step. So now that's done. Keep the cloth wet. Now I'm going to spray this with water. Let me take off the outside area of the bee. The reason I leave this paper on there while I'm sanding is to keep that beeswax in the background from getting the dust on it. Because I'll scrape that off and throw it back in the crock pot and use it again. I mean, if it had dust on it, I could still use it, but the cleaner you keep it, the better. So I'm going to make sure all my edges are still down on the wax. If not, you'll have a void there. All right, I think we're good. So I'm just spraying water on top of this now. And you can watch it gets a little darker because that paper is absorbing the water. And I'm going to just move that water around on top of that paper and let it soak in good. And as I rub it, you can see the little, maybe you can tell, little balls of paper turn to pulp. And you can tell I'm not pushing real hard. You don't have to. The first round I go really light. You want to get off the bulk of the paper. It's still going to have a little bit of a haze on it. Especially, see that wing? It's still got a little haze on it. So I'm going to do the first round like this. Just lightly take off the top layer. And I've got a couple others to do, so you'll get to see this again if you want. This is another one I stayed with some more natural colors instead of doing the bright blues and pinks, and greens. All right, so I get the bulk of it off. Then I take my rag, make sure it's good and wet, spray my paper one more time, or my bee, and now I can kind of like buff it. That takes that layer off, that last layer of haze. It makes those colors pop. And that's still got the beeswax there in the background. Once I take that off, it'll lighten up the background. Of course, you can see how there's a little bit of difference, a little lighter on this one. And I'll carve out that beeswax and then cut in some details so I can get a little bit of that fuzzy on the bee. Sometimes I wait and do the carving. And next, I'm going to go ahead and start that now. Then I'll take off the paper on a couple others. There's no, just basically doing an outline. This wax is cold. I'm gonna start on the wings, then I'm gonna hit it with the heat gun. Maybe that's what I should do. Basically carving into the bee and drawing some details in. Just kind of doing a random pattern to try and mimic what a wing would look like. And then I like to kind of draw like some fuzz. See if you can see some of that texture. It's hard to get it to focus. But it's cool to be able to draw through that ink, and you're basically taking off the ink that was transferred on, and you're creating a texture that you can feel. It's kind of cool. Like I said, I'll hit it with the heat gun here in a minute and take off even more of this outside wax. I like to usually do a little bit of it before I heat it up. Like I said, if you want to see more of the process, the beginning I showed how I got to this point, and then I'm going to do a little bit more of that here in just a second on another bee. And if you're in Nashville, you can come to the show this Saturday at the arcade. If you're around in Kentucky, New Albany, Indiana, just outside of Louisville, I'm going to take some of these guys to Copper Moon Gallery. They've got a cool little store with a variety of artwork and decorative items, some antique stuff. It's really a cool little shop. Go check them out on Facebook, Copper Moon Gallery in New Albany. And then I'll be at the Harding Art Show come May. You can also find the Harding Art Show on Facebook, social media, Instagram. So there, I'm outlining the bee, do some of the honeycombs here. I'm gonna hit it with the heat gun. Then I'm gonna remove that wax from around the bee. I think that's what I like about this process. There's a lot of repetitive steps. Kind of get lost in one, and then after a while that one's done and you move on to another step and get lost in it for a while. On larger pieces, I really like this part right here, just carving into it and bringing out, you're basically bringing out the highlights, because by revealing that wood in the background, it lightens up the back. Of course, it's hard to tell that on a smaller piece like this, but if I wanted to lighten up the middle of this bee, I could just take off more of the ink I transferred, and it would make everything else feel darker. Yeah, well, I guess you'll see how much lighter that background is compared to the bee when I start scraping off that around the bee. Almost there. Plus, after you do this carving and you hit it with the heat gun, the wax will, on the edges where the ink is, will ball up. It's kind of a cool look too. Okay. I think I got all that. Get the heat gun over here. And if you want to do this and you need a heat gun, you can go to a tool store called Harbor Freight or Northern Tools, and they usually run specials on painters guns. Usually you could use one of those. This one is actually an acoustic painter's gun, or an encaustic, yeah, painter's gun. So it costs a little bit more than the ones you can get at Harbor Freight, but you can get a heat gun for less than $10 at Harbor Freight. I think this one costs $75. It probably lasts longer, but if you're not doing it very often, you don't have to spend this much money on one. So you gotta be careful when you're doing this step. You don't want to, as that fan's heating up, it's also blowing. If you get that wax really hot, the fan will actually blow the ink around, especially after you've carved into it. So that's why I have it on the low setting. After it gets warm, I can take one of my scraper tools. I got different sizes, and just carefully remove wax in areas I don't want it. And sometimes I'll leave on wax around the bee. It's kind of cool looking. Actually, this one has a little bit there at the bottom before you get to the honeycombs. It's kind of nice to see. I can't, a little bit better. It's hard to get that to focus with me holding it in my hand. But the more of this I remove around the bee, the lighter the background shows up and the bee stands out. There we go. Dang it. You can see the difference with the beeswax on there. It's a little cloudy looking. Some people like to leave the beeswax. I used to do some classes and I would have people leave more of it on there than I do. I like that contrast though. Oh, I see some comments now. Awesome. I got some returning. I don't know why I can't keep my comments up on the page. I have to tap it to get them to pop up. So you folks that are still watching that have made comments, thank you for coming back. I know Scotty she's been on, she or he, I'm not even sure. Has come and visited several times. Crafty Mama from Crafty Mama Shelly has gave me some tips on some YouTube stuff. I need to get more. I've been playing with it now, so it'll get better hopefully. All right. And when I'm scraping off the beeswax too, I don't try to get it completely off. I like to leave the texture from the tool. It just adds a little more interest to the painting itself. But by taking it off too, people can see that the bee is sitting on top of the wood and the beeswax. It has a nice little texture to it. And after it's sprayed, so right now it's pretty much done. I'm gonna hit it with a heat gun. I'll put my initials in it. Then when I get warm enough weather, I'll spray it with a coating of Kamar resin. It's made by Krylon. It has a little bit of a sheen to it, as you can see here. It's a little shinier. You almost have to do that. The beeswax I use is straight from a beekeeper, so it has honey in it, and it's still tacky. So even to the touch now, so this would be a disaster if it sat in your house for a while collecting dust. You wouldn't be able to wipe it off. That's part of the reason I put the resin coating on it. The other reason is it helps even out the colors. I'm not having trouble here because I'm using all the same magazines. But if you mix magazine pages, the inks transfer different. Some are more matte, some are glossy. So when you spray it with Kamar, it makes them all the same. And it has UV protection, and it's archival. So there's benefits to spraying it with Kamar. And I get it from Jerry's Artorama, same place I get these panels. I've used a wax sealer that was in liquid form. It was like an acrylic medium. It worked fine. It just didn't have the same finish, and it didn't seem to last as long. I have some paintings that are 8 years old that they look fine. It doesn't look the same as it did. It doesn't have the same gloss to it. And I like that Kamar resin has a semi-gloss. It's not super shiny. But let's see. I'll put my initials in this bad boy. What I generally do is put my initials in the front, throw the heat to it. Another reason you want to throw the heat to it is to set the ink into the beeswax. Kind of bonds the two together as one. And I like that it kind of rounds the edges off where I carved into everything. So now it's got my initials kind of discreetly put down there in the corner. And then on the back side, I'll do like this. I'll stamp it, put my initials and a number on it. There's that. So real quick, I'm going to do the sanding and blocking on this one. On this one, I gave my beekeeper guy, my other bee I did, but I'm going to put an actual honeycomb. My beekeeper's beeswax had honeycomb in it. So I took that out and separated it, and I've been kind of adding that to the bottom after I did the transfer. So instead of these honeycombs at the bottom, I'll have actual real honeycomb. So that's what I'm getting ready to do here. First, I got to get this guy sanded, blocked in. And every one of these bees I've got, oh, that's the one I've been working on, not that one. Can't do that. Always a, can't tell if that's one I've done already. One I worked on. Oh, I can't do that. I got to finish doing his body. I've got his wings. I guess I could do that real fast. If you want to hang around, I'm going to finish this one cutting the paper. Very unorganized, huh? So I'm going to just see. This is what's left on this. It's hard to tell, but the main body and the orange in between the black stripes is what's left. So let me get me what colors I'm going to use. I've been liking this orange and orangey red and yellow. So I'm just going to stay with that on this one. Keep it more natural. I don't remember what the wings were. It's a problem with doing several of these at a time. You can't keep up with what's what, especially on larger paintings. I'm gonna Let's see. Bourbon and whiskey and cigars make some of the best ads for the colors I want to use. So I'm going to take that shape, put it face down on top of the beeswax, right back where I pulled that little piece off. Burnish it in a little bit, grab another piece. And you see, I like these pieces to be really small. The smaller the pieces, the better the painting will look when it's done. I guess because you can get more variety. I really like that about this process. If you try to do large pieces, it just doesn't have the same effect unless you just happen to run across the perfect magazine paper textures. You know, like some of these things could be cool as a little larger piece, but it'd have to be the perfect fit. And I've learned which colors are best for a transfer. Some just don't transfer that well. Of course, oranges, reds, greens, blues, the more vibrant the color, the better. You're getting something that's hazy or smoky looking, kind of muted. That's the way it'll transfer. Like that, this orange over here would probably be fine, but I'd rather go with a little bit brighter. And this is still kind of iffy. There's one I've been using. Let's see if you can tell a difference in that. Yeah. This one has a little bit more vibrant colors in it. And it depends on what colors you're putting it up against too. Like any kind of painting, you know, when you're choosing colors, it's good to have, you know, some kind of a feel for what you want. You want complementary colors, or you want something that works, you know, more subtle. And texture is good. It's hard to do a lot of texture when you're doing this small though. On larger paintings, I try to choose things that have text in it, faces, patterns from clothing or rugs, furniture. Architecture is good. Lots of windows. I'm almost getting tired of talking. Too bad we couldn't have a conversation back and forth. I know the comments, there's some there, but I just can't see them. I can't respond when they come across. I don't know why they disappear. I pull them up and I can quickly see that there's some there, but then it goes away. Okay, this is the last piece on this one I have to put down. Then I can do the sanding. I really want this one to have texture. Excuse me. I was talking. I'm getting a dry throat. I'm going to have to get a drink. Didn't look like my video's jumping like it was yesterday when I did it, or whenever the last one was. I didn't turn on my music today in the studio. Get a better stream. Alright. So all my papers down. Bees everywhere. Get my block. Remember, I block in the pieces. Okay, I'm gonna get a drink real quick. Scotty's a she. I just saw my comments. Thanks for coming by, Scotty. It's good to see you again. Okay, that's blocked in. So before I get done and get off of here, I'll pull up comments. If you have any questions, put it on there, and we'll chat back and forth instead of me working and chatting by myself. If you have time. Otherwise, if you want to send me a message, I can take an email or respond some other way. So wipe off the dust. I've got the gloss taken off the magazine paper, so now it absorbs water. I can take off this outer layer, I guess. Like I said, this one's going to have the real honeycomb on it instead of me cutting out magazine and doing a transfer. So it's going to have a little bit different look. It's not as detailed as the other ones. Looks like the wings are going to be dark too. He looks all lonely. All these have all this pattern and stuff around him. He's all by himself floating in the air. So last time I did this with the honeycomb, I don't know if that's going to be enough. I did this last time, and I put the heat gun on the honeycomb. It just kind of melted into a blob. It turned out pretty cool, but I'm going to try to keep this more intact this time. I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to go ahead and carve my bee details. Then I'm going to hit this with the heat gun. And I left a little more beeswax, a little thicker layer down here at the bottom. So when I heat it and it softens up, hopefully I'll be able to just take this and push it down into that hot wax and it'll stick into place. I won't have to put a heat gun on top. Still think it's plain though. It needs, I might have to put some more honeycomb on the edges and not just at the bottom. You need something else. We'll work on that. All right. Carving a little detail there. Now, I like this last one. I went a little bit thicker on the carving. Carving away. Okay, I've got to do some down here. There we go. A little bit on the outside here. Getting close. So sometimes I'll heat this thing up and the wax comes off a little easier, but I like to do these initial lines, cutting this stuff in before I heat it up so I don't accidentally take away beeswax where I want to keep it, like where there's ink. I've done it before. One little slip and you can ruin a painting. Or at least cause yourself some headache. Put a little more detail in here. Oh, I gotta put my initials in this guy somewhere else since I don't have honeycomb pattern. So I've done this before. I got a really sharp point on this. So I'm just gonna carve it right here in the B butt, RLP. It's gonna be very small. There, just looks like it's part of the B now. Can you see it? Probably, I don't know if it's not really focusing enough where you can see it probably. All right, a little heat. Then we'll take off the wax at the top before I start messing with the bottom. It's hot. There's a little bigger scraper so I can do this a little quicker. And when it's hot, you can really take off the wax fast. Still gotta be careful. I'm gonna try to leave along the sides and down at the bottom. So I got something for that honeycomb to stick to. All right. I'm gonna kind of scrape a little bit of the top off. Get some of the dirty off. About got a leg there. All right. So before I heat it, I'm gonna figure out where I want this stuff. Luckily, I've got several pieces. Kind of like that. This is fairly new to me. I hadn't worked with honeycomb before, but I had it sitting here in the studio and I thought, oh, that'd be a cool little addition. Really want this to go up against that one. I guess I'm gonna stay in the corner. It's cool to get to incorporate this into my work. This makes me want to eat some honeycomb. I remember getting some honey with chunks of honeycomb in it. It's good stuff. There we go. Okay. I think that'd be cool. A little 3D texture added to the top of the painting. All right, we'll do this and I'll see if there's any comments, any questions before I sign off. Get this really hot and hope this works. I need 2 hands or 3 hands. Oh yeah, I think it's gonna work. Oh, much better than last time. See if I can do this and not melt that one. Woo. That stuff melts fast. Oh yeah, that's awesome. Worked out better than I expected. So now I'm gonna just kind of hit some more of this thicker wax, get it out of the way. There. I think it turned out pretty cool. Not many paintings have actual part of the honeycomb that comes from the hive where the honey or the beeswax came. Awesome. Sweet. Okay, let me get my iPad so I can see comments. Uh-oh, Shelly's heat gun. So Shelly's got the same heat gun as me. Cool. Well, thanks, Scotty, for sharing with Carla what we do here. Let's see. Yeah, Carla, please do go back and watch. And I pretty much go through most of the steps, everything but putting the wax on the panel. And in a nutshell, I take beeswax and melt it in a crock pot. Then I brush it on. Let's see. Got some others. Cameo carving. Not sure what that is. Oh, Crafty Mamas is on here. Sweet. Yeah, y'all want to? Before I get off of here, Carla, if you're still here, or if you're watching later, I'll show you the giraffe. Of course, you can probably go back and watch the video of that one. I did some of that process. We'll see if I can put the giraffe under here. So here's a larger piece. This is a 24 by 24 panel. You can see a little bit more of the detail than you can on those little bees, just because it's larger and I've carved into it more. And the lighter areas is where I transferred, a really light beige color, yellow or gray, and then I scrape away some of it to get that lighter area. This one's already been, I sprayed it yesterday. I had some warm weather. There you go. Giraffe with his tongue out. I'm still trying to think of a title for it. But there's the bee from today. Thank you guys that watched or are watching later. We'll make sure there's no more comments on here I need to answer. Oh, Cameo's the jewelry. Okay. The shell is carved away. Sweet. Good to know. Thanks for that info. Alright. Well, I'm going to get off here, guys, and I'll be back again when I have the right thing to share. it's been fun, and like I said, I appreciate you guys joining. Take care. It'll take me 2 minutes to stop the video.